In this video, we will kick Google Analytics to the curb, pick up an open source, privacy first analytics solution, and we will self-host it. I'm Lars Wikman. This is Underjord. This video is a collaboration between Underjord and Glesys. Glesys is a cloud provider centered on the Nordics. They have data centers across Sweden and I believe one in Finland, and they provide VPSs, dedicated servers, object storage, most of the things you would need. They also offer Terraform, which is nice. And they've sponsored these videos and collaborated with me because they believe that to comply with the actual law, you probably need to do some self-hosting or find some people that can do hosting for you. We've done a previous video where we go deep on this topic of why should you self-host. So I'll reference that video here and leave most of the legal matters aside and focus on how to set up Plausible Analytics, which is an open source analytics tool for self-hosting. All right, let's get to the setup. So this is glesys.com. This is where we log in to set up our server. You can, of course, do self-hosting without other server providers. If you're locked into a long contract or you have one you prefer, you absolutely can use others. I will also say that Plausible Analytics, being an open source solution, they also offer a hosted version. That's their business. And they are kind to share their entire product with the world. So if you don't actually want to self-host, but you need a solution like an alternative to Google Analytics, I think that's also an absolutely fair thing to do. Just pay them a fair fee and they take care of all the management and hosting for you. I think that's worth calling out just because they seem to be a very nice company. They do a lot of cool stuff and they share. So we log in. Landing in the Glesys dashboard, I will choose my own organization. And here we can see that we can set up servers, load balancers, IP addresses, networks, object storage, file storage, handle DNS and email. There's some archive, there's some VPN users. So we'll go for a server. Go to servers, create. We'll set it up with the KVM. We'll use Ubuntu 20.04. That's a long-term supported release. We'll use Falkenberg for our data center because that's really near to where I am, so I like it. But you can also see that they have Oulu and Stockholm. We set up a host name. So I want this host name to be cloudcorrect.eu. It's a domain I've bought previously because I thought it was fun. We'll set that up separately, and we can set up my username here. I can leave it as Lars. I'll grab this password. Just gonna put it in a doc on the side so I don't lose track of it. You can shove it in your password manager or wherever you prefer. I could add a public SSH key. Not gonna do that right now. Here's an important part. We get an IP address, we get an IPv4 and an IPv6. We don't need backups right now. I don't think we need extra cores. 2 is fine. 20 gigs of storage, 2 gigs of RAM, estimated bandwidth, 100 megabit. This I like. This is a very, very clear pricing model for a server provider. This is unusual with the cloud currently. 196 Swedish kronor per month. So we create the server. It's up. We go and grab the IP address. Now I use gandhi.net for my DNS. I see that Glesys is offering DNS. There's plenty of DNS providers. Use whatever you're using. That's fine. Now I will point this domain to that particular IP address. So I want to point cloudcorrect.eu and analytics.cloudcorrect.eu to this server. So I will use an A record and I will use this at, I will use this IP address. Then I want to create another one. Analytics.cloudcorrect.eu, pointing at the same IP address. Create that. And this should be all that we need to do in the Glacis dashboard for now. So let's hit the terminal, because that's how I do it. So now you should be able to connect to it using SSH. Use your username. The username you supply, that is. Don't use mine, use yours. And your IP address, not mine. And we should get a fingerprint of the server. This is an SSH thing. Since the server is new, I will just say yes. Now it wants the password. So I will grab that from where I stored it, paste it in, and I'm connected. We can also check if our DNS record is pointing correctly. I'll use Ctrl-D to log out of the SSH session. We should also be able to use SSH log at cloudcorrect.eu. Separate fingerprint, same server. That also works. Now we want to set up Nginx. And the main reason we want to set up Nginx is it's nice to have something in front of your analytics service that has a few advantages. It's also an easy way of dealing with SSL, so you get transport security. And I also want an example website that we can check that the analytics works on. So we'll start by setting up Nginx, and then we'll get to the analytics part. I'll try to keep the Nginx thing brief. Sudo apt-get upgrade, just to make sure that your packages are up to date. With the update and upgrades in place, we should be able to just go sudo apt-get install Nginx. Yeah. Let's go with the recommendations. Go with the flow. So with Nginx installed, I was going to say that we can go ahead and edit some config files, but I was just reminded that we need an editor. If you like Nano, I think you already have that, but I want Vim, so I'm going to install it. So with Vim installed, we can go to the Nginx config and start setting up our site. Remember the sudo, it gets annoying otherwise. And I will paste some of the config I prepared. This is fairly basic Nginx config, and it's not worth typing out necessarily. So we set up the server name cloudcorrect.eu, we set up the logs, we set up that it's hosted from var www cloudcorrect, and it should use the index file. And then we have another piece for proxying, so running Nginx as a reverse proxy is very common. And this is for analytics, that's cloudcorrect.eu. And we set it up to pass the real IP forward and to pass the X forwarded for proxy header. We also set the host. We make it not be a redirect, and we proxy pass to 127.0.0.1 port 8000. So that's where we're going to be running Plausible Analytics. Save the file. With that set up, we should be able to restart Nginx to have our new config take effect. And then we should be able to go to our website and get no website at all because we haven't uploaded one. So let's try that. 404 not found. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. Now I want to set up my website just so we have the set dressing in order. So I will jump out of this server. Control D is the best way. And I need to upload the website. I have one lying around here, so I'll do website scp-r, so recursive copy of the website, and I will put it at lars@clouddirect.eu :home/lars/website for now. Now we can log in again. So now we can see that the website is indeed uploaded, but it's not in the correct place. Now we will be doing a lot of work as root in this process, so I will simply switch to being root continuously for a bit. So we copy this website to rww cloud correct, and then we want to change the owner to be www.data. This should make the website work. Let's take a look. Fantastic. This is my new modern website. Going back into this, now we have all the set dressing in place, so we should be able to focus on Plausible Analytics. Now for installing Plausible Analytics, we need to install Docker and Docker Compose, which are two slightly annoying installs, but they simplify the Plausible process significantly. I used the DigitalOcean guide for installing Docker on Ubuntu 20.04, so I will reference that one in the description in case you want the steps in a copy-pastable fashion. So we install some dependencies. We install the GPG key for Docker repos. We add the Docker repos. And we can check that it will be using the Docker repo instead of the Ubuntu ones. Time to install it. So we can also check that it's the system the service is running. Seems fine. We can also run the Docker command and see that it's there. The next step is Docker Compose. This is also based on a guide by DigitalOcean. I, much like anyone trying to set up these things, just Google for the instructions, and they have good SEO, so I guess they show up. Credit to them for putting out a lot of useful information. We create a directory for our plugins. Then we download Docker Compose for Linux as a plugin. We ensure it's executable. And then we can do Docker Compose version. Yeah, we have Docker Compose. So now we have our website and set dressing, and we have Docker Compose. So what remains now is actually Plausible Analytics. They offer a repository that you can clone, so Git repository, which is a convenient way of pulling down all the code that you need and all the config for the Docker Compose stuff. So we clone that into hosting. So this, importantly, contains the Docker Compose file here and the plausible config sample file here. We can actually look at what's in that config file. So it requires an admin user email, an admin username, an admin user password, a base URL, and a secret key base. Now the secret key base is an Elixir thing, so if you've followed some of my work, you'll recognize it, but it's something that many systems have. It's a basis for cryptographic safety, especially used for sessions. So we need to generate one of those that's reliable. So the plausible instructions, I'll also link those, provide a convenient command for it. So we can grab this. We can edit the config. Then while we're at it, we can do, this is my email. I would suggest using yours. And I would suggest a better password. Now the base URL should be where you are intending your service to be accessed. So https://analytics.cloudcorrect.eu. I'll save and quit. With a little bit of luck, this should let us start it with Docker Compose. Docker Compose up -d, and D is daemon mode, run in the background. Now it will pull the Docker images for Plausible. This means the Plausible application, it means a version of the Postgres database, and they also use the ClickHouse database, which is well suited to analytics data. I think they also have, yeah, they also pull a mail related container that we probably don't need. With that, we should be able to check that our Docker containers are running. It seems like they are. Now there's a slight hiccup in our path. We need to set up SSL. This is most easily done with Let's Encrypt's Certbot. So I will be following the instructions from the EFF for Certbot on Ubuntu 20. Installing it on Ubuntu should just mean apt install snapd. And then we should be able to install Certbot using snap. There are other ways of installing it. This is just sort of the official one. Then they recommend linking it to your user bin. And now we can use the certbot --Nginx, which will essentially do everything for us if it all goes well. I'll enter an email. So yes to the terms of service, no to extra email. I would like to activate HTTPS for cloudcorrect.eu as well, but we can start with analytics. So we start with number 2 here, analytics.cloudcorrect.eu. It succeeded. Now we can check and see that it was set up. So it is now listening to port 443 and it is redirecting any request to the HTTP port 80 to this HTTPS one. This means our analytics should be ready. Analytics.cloudcorrect.eu. This is what you get. This is the welcome to Plausible. So launch.nginx.io, and I think I remember my password. I don't have any sites set up, so let's do that. HTTPS cloudcorrect.eu. I think I don't want to be in Finland. I think I have the same time zone though. Oh, there we go. Now, this gives us a snippet, a piece of JavaScript that we can throw in our site to get rolling. So let's do that. Let's edit our index file. And we'll just paste this script in there. And we can go back to our site. Go, oh, start collecting data. No one has been visiting us yet. So we'll go to cloudcorrect.eu. We will disable my ad blocker. And refresh the site. And going over here, we can now see that we have had 2 total page views. We can get top sources, top pages, countries map, devices. I haven't explored the full functionality of Plausible Analytics. I don't do a lot of analytics myself personally, but from what I hear, it's quite full-featured. I know that they release features for the self-hosted after they've been in the cloud version, their own hosted version, for a while, and I think that's fair. It's something they offer for free. Now, you can go a slightly more hardcore path and grab whatever is in their open repos and try to host that, which is probably not insanely difficult, but this prepackaged, slightly slower updating version seems like a good enough offering for sure. So you can set up multiple websites in this as well. So that's it. Those are the steps required to set up self-hosting with Plausible Analytics. I think it's decently convenient. We did set up the entire server end to end. And if you already have a server running, this is fairly easy to set up on it. If you want to do some special shenanigans, you can certainly set up the Docker images and sort of coordinate them yourself. I will say I did not find this too cumbersome or difficult. It definitely requires some technical chops, especially if you run into any issues, but they made it really convenient to self-host Plausible. So with that taken care of, we have our own analytics platform. Our website is back up and running with self-hosted, perfect analytics. As mentioned, this video was sponsored by Nginx. I suggest you check out their offering. I think they're phenomenal. I really like that I can actually call them and get a human on the phone. They're responsive on email. You know, support from a cloud provider, that's special. If you're interested in anything else that I do, you can check out underjord.io. I'll also leave some links below. And until next time, stay curious out there.